What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My first week back streaming after a maybe 2.5 week hiatus. I figure we finish it off with a doozy. We will have Amin the Dream joining us shortly. He's getting his hair did. But right now, me and Rob are going to kick this bad boy off. It's been a while since I've had Rob on the channel. So before we get into anything, Rob, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. You know, the advantage of this particular hairstyle is that I don't have to go get my hair did. And so I'm here. The beard takes a considerable amount of focus. I'm looking at putting out, a video series on Zen and the art of beard maintenance, wherein I talk about the theory that goes into maintaining such a beard. But thankfully, it's a quick buzz up here. So I'm ready to go. I'm positive because stuff can't get much freaking worse after what happened on Sunday. Or can it? We'll get into that for sure. But I'm choosing to be optimistic at this moment in time that there will be redemption on the horizon.
I was in a pretty negative mindset after that game, to be honest.
I don't blame you.
Because those are those ones you just can't let go. Excuse me 1 second. I have a frog in my throat. Give me 1 second.
I'm dealing with much the same. I am still recovering my voice. I've got one of those, teas that is specially designed to get your throat ready and raring to go for speaking. I just finished the hour with Jack, so I got water in the regular mug. I got the tea. I'm all over it.
All right, let's try this again. Before I say anything, I just want to say real hi to the chat with a couple people that are in here right now. Raphael562, he said, what's up, Rob, Aaron, and Amin, everyone. Stunner is in here. He's his name is always changing. So, but I know who he was originally. It was Stunner Fillmore. So what's up going on, man? And Green, I've never seen you before. Bang, bang. So welcome to the channel. All right. So we were going to jump in and talk about the strip club shenanigans. For all of you who don't know, there's a video circulating with Trey Lance supposedly at a strip club, throwing money at a stripper. I don't even know if that's him, but apparently somebody's verified it that it is him. I don't know. Before we get into that, news came down that George Kittle practiced today and that he looked good. But I don't know if it was John Lynch or somebody else who said it, but it's going to come down to kind of the wire whether he plays on Sunday. Rob, I'll ask this to you. I'm not saying that this game is a must win, but to me it always feels like that when you start off 0-1. How important do you think it is that Kittle plays and is an integral part of the offense on Sunday?
I will say that Kittle is a very important part to this offense. And because we were expecting to come out with 2 easy games in a very challenging schedule for 2022, dropping the first one to Chicago in the manner in which we did makes the game against Seattle a very important matchup, one that could be difficult to come back from if the 49ers fall down 0-2. There are stats out there, much like those surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo, that point to the 49ers' ability to win with and without George Kittle, that there's a high correlation. George Kittle is out there. The 49ers have a far better chance of getting a victory. So I think it is big. And you would anticipate that if Kittle circled one of the 2 games on the calendar that was more important to him between the Chicago Bears week 1 or the Seattle Seahawks as the home opener in week 2, I have to imagine that he was looking towards week 2 as the less missable game. I do think this is going to be a very physical matchup, and George Kittle provides an advantage there, both in run blocking and as a reliable, easy out for Lance in the pass game. So I think it's really big that Kittle plays. That said, I'm in lockstep with Kyle Shanahan. The training staff has to keep George Kittle in check. You cannot afford a re-aggravation of this injury. That would be the most detrimental thing to our season. You drop one more game, is it the dire straits? Sure, it's pretty close. It's almost time to hit the panic button, if not time already. But if you lose Kittle for the following 6 weeks, even if you squeak out a win, now you've shot yourself in the foot. So I want him to be out there, but not at the detriment of his future health.
This game to me is a lot of pressure for the 49ers. I feel it as a fan, and I don't even play. These first 2 weeks were, kind of supposed to be gimmies. And, the way that they lost, I know the Chicago game is a kind of an outlier because of the weather. But the fact is they lost. They shouldn't have. They were the better team, across the board, and they lost. They lost in kind of a deflated fashion, especially the last 5 minutes of the game being what it was with the weather. So this game is super important. Yeah, you're right. If there's anything that he feels while he's warming up that would indicate that he might not make it through the game, I would shut him down. They have enough weapons with Ayuk and Debo, Jennings. I would hope that they would activate Ray McLeod for this game. They need him for the long haul, so I wouldn't sacrifice it. You're right. You win one game, but you lose a guy for 6. Then what's how much is the cost for?
Yeah, that trade-off just isn't worth it to me, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even with how important this game is, you have to keep Kittle from further injuring himself. And I will point out that as we were going through, I did confirm what was put in there by USMC 49er, that they did in fact provide an extension to Mitch Wishnowsky as the breaking news that just hit, a 4-year extension that keeps Mitch with the 49ers through 2026. So I know we were talking about George Kittle, but I thought we'd throw that out there. I feel like Mitch has had a good start to this season.
He does look healthier.
He's had some mixed reviews over his career with the Niners, but I'm feeling pretty good about this extension considering what he did in week 1 and through the preseason to this point.
He looked strong in week 1. They took the kickoff duties away from him because he was just so burnt out from last year physically. Right. So hopefully this new contract invigorates him to keep it going. Can I ask you something about George Kittle?
Absolutely.
Are you ever at a point, just because of his physical issues and him missing time, would you be against at any point moving on from him, maybe within the next couple seasons, if you think that they could get something still for him, just because of the physicality of how he plays and he's in and out of the lineup pretty often. And
yeah,
is he on the uptick of his career? I mean, like, some guys just play with such ferocity that me and my brother were talking about it. They just have really short careers. So I was thinking about this the other day. As much as I love George Kittle, like, if you can still get something for him within the next, I don't know, season and a half, would that be anything that ever crossed your mind, or are you kind of dead set against giving him away?
Dead set against it? That's a definitive statement. I shy away from definitive statements for the most part. What I will say is my immediate reaction as you began to formulate that question is like, come on. This is George Kittle we're talking about. We got to keep George Kittle. George Kittle is so important to the success of this offense. Just talked about this correlation between Kittle and the wins and losses when he's not out there. And it's absurd to consider trading George Kittle. But is it absurd? No. The reality is it's not absurd. Would I do it? At this point in time, I would not. No. I still feel that his what he offers the 49ers, his run blocking ability specifically within Kyle Shanahan's scheme,
true,
his speed, his ability to bowl over defenders, much like Deebo Samuel, I still think that outweighs the average number of games that he has missed per season to this point. I also have to acknowledge that the trend seems to be going in the wrong direction, that when you look at more recent games, totals, whatnot, he has missed a greater number of them. And those injuries do pile up. He's had a lot of soft tissue injuries, which I don't think of as the type that pile up, but they are recurring. And he hasn't been able to really do anything in the offseason, even though he seems to have focused on it, that has eliminated these injuries from occurring. So I do think it's a trade-off between his play style and the fact that leads to injuries. I'm not willing to give up on it yet. I do think it's something you have to look at towards the end of this contract, and certainly before you give out another one. It's no longer an absurd conversation in my mind. A couple of years ago, I thought it was because it started up a little early. Now you could argue, hey, it's at least worth a dialogue. Like, what's the return we're getting for him? That becomes part of the equation. Whereas before, I would have just said no, hard pass.
Yeah, Larry Krueger always talks about how, you don't give away good players. Like, just, when you have them, you do whatever you have to do to keep them. But I don't know. I was in this weird mindset. I was thinking after the game on Sunday, I was in a reflective state, sitting by myself, drinking coffee on my day off. And I'm like, damn, what could they get for George Kittle? Because it's like, I don't know. The vibe I get from him, it's like, I don't know. It's in my own head, because you see how active he is on social media. You see how much of a a man of the people he is and what he
Yes.
does in the off season. And sometimes it's like, is the life outside of football going to draw him away eventually? Kind of like a Rob Gronkowski type thing. Cause I mean, George Kittle is a very likable guy. He's very
Yes.
charismatic.
Very much so.
Could he go be a wrestler one day? Like I see that because you see his the way he plays, like him and Debo and certain guys, they instead of avoiding contact, they like embrace it.
Yes.
And I don't know. It was just something that crossed my mind. It wasn't one of the topics that we had discussed, but I figured I'd ask you.
It's problematic, right? Because Kyle Shanahan and us as fans, we love to see it. We love to see Debo truck a defender. We love to see George Kittle truck a defender. But it is exactly that's leading towards these smaller injuries piling up for both of those players. And it is something that you have to keep an eye on because the body can only withstand so much wear and tear. When a little component of the body is off and the rest of it is compensating for that, you then have these weird injuries that take place because you're compensating for it. So is it a concern? Yes. You see players where it continues to come up. We have Jason Verrett, who is a shining example of someone who's continued to fight through it, but continues to not be available for the team. And you have to ask that question. If George Kittle is not going to be available, then it doesn't matter how good he is. I still think that equation favors keeping George Kittle. But like I said, I admit it's a conversation worth having at this point.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to think that I'm not a Kittle guy. I just, you kind of look at the big picture sometimes, and you wonder, what direction he's going. The thing that got me was the fact that he got hurt in practice before the season started. I'm like, what? Really? Like, how? Are these guys stretching at all? Like, I don't know. Was it Jack that said that the Niners have one of the shortest stretching sessions before they get on the field?
I don't recall anyone saying that. So no, I'm not familiar with who it was, but that would be an interesting correlation.
It could have been. Who in the world did I have on the channel who was there? Because I know. Rohan was there for a bit, and I know Brad. He was. But I've never had Brad on the channel. It might have been Jack who just said like he noticed how short the stretching was between when they stretch and then get on the field. I'll have to verify with him, or I don't know, maybe if you see him before I do, just ask if did he see anything about stretching that would cause concern with how short of a stretching period they have before they get on the field? Because it seems like a lot of these injuries are all similar. So
yeah, let's get a little bit more stretching to occur there,
please. All right. So we're going to jump to the topic that we were going to start the show with. And these young guys, man, I don't know. Listen, what you do in your own time is your own business, but you got to be smart. Just like Jimmy with the porn star dating or going out and that whole storyline that happened. Apparently, Trey, the video, for you guys who don't know in the comments, is at a strip club throwing dollar bills at a stripper while she's doing her deal on him. I guess my question to you is like, does Trey need any more eyes on him to criticize him? And how much of a non-favor was this video coming out? Because we've already got what's his name? Who's the commentator that makes videos about Trey Lance every day because he dated her daughter?
Goodness. Oh, Colin Cowherd. Yeah, he came out. He had a strong opinion.
He's nauseating.
And I want to know, has Colin ever been to the club? Because if he has, what he says on his program comes across as a little bit hypocritical. Like, I was a fan of saying when the news came out about Jimmy, go get yours, Jimmy. Do whatever the hell you want. Date whomever you want. Like, it is your life decision. If you want to date a girl who's a little more free with the things she wants to do in the bedroom department, great. Have at it. That is your right to do as a human being. I was saying this on my show. Like, we have this weird hang up in the U.S. We don't about killing weapons of mass destruction. We're all about violence. But when it comes to bare naked bodies, we're like, whoa there. This is, very cutting edge stuff. Whereas in Europe and in other non-puritanical based societies, it's much more natural what people do as far as being naked, being around others who are naked. It's less of a to do. And I wish that that's where we could get as a society. I think each individual should be able to decide for themselves where they feel they want to be in regard to strip clubs, strippers, going to strip clubs. It should be a personal decision. I understand that he's the face of a franchise and therefore he's got to expect this level of scrutiny. I wish that weren't the case. I wish that he were able to do what he felt like in the offseason. I do think that's an important call out here, is that the video gets released in between week 1 and week 2, but reportedly it happened in the offseason. And you can imagine whatever outlet put it out waited until after week 1 when it would be more damaging, right? You want to put this video out when it gets the most traction. So I'm not concerned about it. I wasn't concerned about Jimmy dating the porn star. If it were in between week 1 and 2, I would be concerned. I would say you need to be grinding at this point. You need to be watching film, getting ready for Seattle, but it wasn't. It was in the offseason, and so I think he's entitled to do what he would like.
Like I'll be honest with you guys. I've never been to, and it's just I'm not that type of guy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like fast women like that. But that's my prerogative and my choice.
And you're entitled to that.
Some guys like whatever, and if they're single, it's their money to waste and do whatever you want, big man. You don't let me stop you. I'm not one of those people that's preachy and tries to tell people what to do.
No.
But I just look at it as just it's first of all, who's the bloke that waited to let this video out? Like, what kind of a loser, pathetic human being are you that you're holding on to a video that you could barely tell if it's him or not? I still have my reservations about if that's actually Trey Lance in the corner.
Sure.
But
and until he confirms it, then it's fair to have those reservations.
So I don't know. To me, it's just like unneeded. And then you got Colin Cowherd, who's upset because he dated his daughter, and he's just every other day he's making some video about Trey Lance not being ready and Jimmy taking over. And this is the same guy that when Trey was drafted, he was like peeing in his pajamas about how much he loved Trey Lance. So
he was high on Trey early on and then did sour. It's unclear to me what relationship did or didn't exist between Trey and Colin's daughter, but there was a notable shift in the coverage, whether it was Colin's opinion changing by seeing something from Trey Lance or some type of a personal reason for it. It has been a significant shift from being pro Trey Lance to significantly criticizing the young gentleman, seemingly for many different reasons.
Yeah, it's every day. Like every time I turn Twitter on pretty much when I'm at work, if I'm on a break, using the bathroom or something. Like I literally see Colin Cowherd on my timeline and I'm like, oh, it's the same video. I'm like, nope, it's a different one. So Trey, as I say to a lot of young men who are well-known and athletes, you got to be smarter, man.
Yep.
Stop thinking with your weenie instead of think with your beanie, just be smart. That's all I got to say. But I'm not here to be a judgmental person or act holier than thou because I'm not perfect either. So I don't know.
Nor am I. I have committed my fair share of mistakes in my life. And if social media existed when I was in my teenage years and 20s, I don't even want to know what would be caught on film and out there on the internet from my life. So
I was such a drama queen back then. I was such a drama queen when I was young. Like some people get, they break up with somebody and they learn to just, keep their feelings to themselves. When I was younger, I would, let everybody know who wanted to listen that this girl that I was with was a piece of trash and a hoe and this and that. And I was just like such a horrible guy.
Yeah.
And I go back and look now and I'm like, I wish I could go back and smack myself across the face. Man, if I had social media back then, whew, I'm so glad that I missed out on that. So yeah. We all do and say things that we are not proud of. We're not famous athletes though, so we don't have people following around with a camera waiting for us to screw up. It's
not a story if you put out a video on me having done something. That is not a story. It's a story for Trey Lance. And that is the point where he will have to decide for himself. Am I willing to take the blowback from these types of incidents, or do I want to avoid them by not putting myself in that situation? Again, though, I would argue wholeheartedly that's Trey's choice to make. It shouldn't be something that the organization steps in. It shouldn't be something. If a teammate wants to say something as a friend, that's one thing. But to me, from the fan base, it's certainly not something to be judged.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully his play gets increasingly better, and then the conversation will be about how amazing he is. But until that happens, you're going to have these kind of story, non-story things happen. And, guys like Colin Cowherd just having absolutely zero clue of what's going on and just putting out a lot of hate content. That to me, it's just hate content. It's nothing.
And just to clarify for anyone that watches this video and lumps this behavior in with anything that I do find more egregious, the reason that I say this falls in an area where Trey Lance should do whatever he wants is that we're talking about all parties involved being consenting adults that are involved because they want to be involved. I'm assuming that this is a reputable type of a strip club where the people who work there choose to work there. And so to me, that's just adults making their own decisions and they should be entitled to do so.
Yep. If these grown ladies and grown men, consent to be there, then whatever happens behind those doors it's fair game. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is.
Speaking of Trey Lance, I thought his performance on last Sunday was uneven. Me and Jack. It's funny. I've kind of gravitated to the way he kind of feels about things of like being. Praise Trey, but also, critique and be not afraid to, if you see something that concerns you or bothers you, not being one of those people. It's like, if I say this, I hate Trey. Not the case. I thought he played uneven. One thing that Jack, pointed out to me that I did notice that after he said it was just, his pocket movement is a little jarring sometimes.
Yes.
I feel like the Niners still, and this is Kyle is lumped in with this too, they don't have that rhythm yet. Say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? I'm not a Jimmy guy, but I will say this. The Niners had a pretty flowing offense, and only when they needed only in the playoffs did it seem like that went to
come
crap.
to a screeching halt in the playoffs, but everywhere else.
But there was a sense of like a flow, and still, and I know it's 3 starts. I'm not trying to be that guy. So for everybody that thinks that I am, that's not it. It's fair to criticize. What did you see from him in the last game, and what would you like to see from him going into this game against Seattle?
So first, let me echo your sentiment there that I also believe, number one, the criticism and praise of Jimmy Garoppolo got to an unfair point where people who were praising Jimmy were leaving out the obvious criticisms that belonged in his game. And those people that were critiquing Jimmy were talking about him as if he was the absolute dregs in the league and trash and shouldn't be starting in the NFL. And personally, I thought both of those takes were just wildly irresponsible, that it fell somewhere in the middle, that Jimmy Garoppolo was a workable starting quarterback, especially within Kyle Shanahan's system, with his ability to get the ball off quickly, hit players in stride, and therefore rack up the yards after the catch. And I feel like a similar unfair dynamic is evolving around Trey. And it's probably simply moving from coverage of Jimmy over to Trey. And it's the same groups of people that have now swapped camps, right? Those that were wildly in favor of Jimmy Garoppolo now are put in a position where a lot of them are unfairly critiquing Trey Lance and calling at every opportunity, every turn to bring Jimmy back in. Well, Jimmy wouldn't have lost that game against Chicago. That's rewriting history. Would it have been a different outcome? Absolutely. Sub out any player on that team. It's going to be a different outcome, not necessarily in the direction that you want it to. Replay the game again, and it's a different outcome, right? So even if you don't swap out Lance, I think the 49ers probably beat the Bears 2 out of 3 times. You run that game back 3 times. So it's an interesting situation. It's unfair to the young gentleman. People are not being patient. They want definitive statements. They want Trey Lance is the savior or Trey Lance is trash. Because in between is muddied. It's reality. Hey, there are no clear-cut answers. It's Trey's going to have some ups and some downs. To me, I wasn't expecting the downs to come in week 1, but I didn't think that it was all Trey's doing. So how did he play in my book? I agree with Jack's assessment of it. He made on my program. There were ups and downs throughout that performance. Some great throws. A throw to Brandon Ayuk, to Juwan Jennings, and that dime to Ray McLeod that were all phenomenal passes. There were a couple of near misses that we've seen before from Jimmy Garoppolo. The one to Tyler Kroft certainly comes to mind as a pass that we've watched Jimmy miss that as well. But what I saw in Lance that was very encouraging was the ability to run. Would I want him to slide a little more? Yeah, but he tucked his head and got some extra yards in there as well. And I think that's to be commended because it showed some leadership. It showed a desire to get the first down on a lot of those crucial plays.
Kelts makes a good point. Rich from Kelts Chronicles. How you doing, buddy, by the way? He says, what up, Aaron, Rob, and Faithful? I've come to the realization that the noise will never stop, but it's how we react is up to us. I totally agree.
True.
There's so many, like, what's the saying? There's 3 sides to every story. The truth.
Yeah.
I forget how it goes. There's a saying. You know what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know the saying verbatim, but I know exactly what you mean. 3 sides to every story, his, hers, and the truth, right? Like, it depends on who you put in there, but it is whomever's perspective it's coming from. That's the filter that's applied to it. And the reality is usually much more in the middle.
Just want to say what up to Brian Culp. Very big supporter of the stream. How you doing, buddy?
Had Brian on the call-in show last night. What's up, Brian?
Nice. You know, I'm usually a pretty gray area type of guy. Either something's all good or all bad. It's a flaw in my personality sometimes that I let myself be like that. But when it comes to sports, you know, what side you are on the Jordan LeBron debate, you know, what side you are on the Montana Brady debate. Everybody has right to their opinion. But there's, you know, Trey is a work in progress.
Yes.
Even I have to remind myself, because when I had Jack on the other day, I said, Jack, me, you, Rob, Jesse, all of us guys, Beto, 49er minded, Ryan, we're all in our 40s or close to our 40s. Some of us are close to 50. We got spoiled with quarterback play. So we're never going to be satisfied. We went from Joe Montana to Steve Young.
Right.
What?
And with a little appearance from Steve Bono in there, who just happened to be a Pro Bowler as well.
I freaking love Steve Bono. I freaking loved Steve Bono back in the day. He was one of my favorite guys. Little
Me too.
Cut off turtleneck sleeve thing. And he kind of reminded me of Joe a lot. Go ahead.
I had a chance to ride in a bus with him at the Hall of Fame induction for Joe Montana and Ronnie Lott. Dude's funny as hell, too. Like, just had the bus rolling. He was absolutely the star of the show.
Oh, man. I went to the Hall of Fame a couple years after that and saw the bust of Joe and Ronnie. I remember seeing the thing, too, with all the rings, that, like, little display. And I was just like, the 49ers got quite a bit.
Yes,
on this one. Actually, this is an off topic, but I got into a discussion today with a gentleman, an older gentleman in my job, was a Bills fan, who started running some mess. And I was like, hey, how many Super Bowls have the Bills won?
That's a low blow. That's a low blow.
I said, the Niners have 5. How many do the Bills have? Oh, that's right. They don't have any. And he kind of, and then I was like, I'm just messing with you. But he took a shot at the Niners. So listen, as us faithful are in this, we're all Niners fans in here for the most part. Listen, guys, I had our back. This Bills fan was talking massive trash, and I had to put him in his place. But it's all out of love, because I didn't win those championships. Those players won it. Well, we could still say we because we're fans, but whatever. I think we could jump from the Trey Lance thing, keeping on the offense. Starting halfback. We got Elijah Mitchell out 2 months now, which is a huge blow.
Huge.
I really wanted him to be healthy this year. You know, I look at him as where Ronnie was drafted in, and sometimes it's like, okay, you know, it is what it is, or whatever. If he was a first round pick, I guess I would be a little more pissed off. But you know, we have some newbies in the backfield. We have the undrafted free agent Jordan Mason. We have TDP. We have Jeff Wilson Jr. What's your and of course we signed recently Marlon Mack, ex Indianapolis Colt, to the practice squad. I don't know if they're going to activate him for the game on Sunday. I would assume they would, right? Maybe not. I don't know.
That's the biggest question mark to me, right? It feels up in the air. The reason I think he won't be elevated is the amount of time that he's been on the roster versus being able to simply elevate Ty Davis Price, who was not elevated week 1. And so we're making some sweeping assumptions that he won't be elevated week 2. And that may be fair. You could make a logical case that he's not ready to be activated. Marlon Mack is a veteran. He's shown he belongs in the NFL. The stance I've taken on why Marlon Mack wouldn't be activated is his familiarity with the offense. The fact that he was just brought in off of the street. In this conversation with Jack, he made the argument that, hey, Marlon may have had a handshake agreement. Like, I'm not coming in to sign with the 49ers unless I have a legitimate shot to earn a role here. And the only way I get that shot is if you allow me to dress and get a couple of carries. So I could see either version of that being true. It's tough for me to pick between Marlon Mack and Ty Davis Price as to who is going to be dressed on game day, whether they elevate Marlon Mack or whether they do dress Ty Davis Price. But it feels like the starting running back is going to be Jeff Wilson Jr., regardless of what you want to say about his performance and the lack of yards per carry against Chicago. Perhaps that was a weather issue. He seems to have earned the trust of the coaching staff. He will get the start. I'm confident of that. So long as he's not atrocious, doesn't put the ball on the ground, my guess is he'll get the majority of the carries with a fair number going to Lance, a fair number to Debo, and a couple to either Jordan Mason or Ty Davis Price or Marlon Mack, whomever are the other two active running backs.
Kyle did say that he would run with a hot hand in this game, though.
He did.
So if, I don't know, Jordan Mason comes in and starts lighting the world on fire, Jordan Mason might be the guy. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't think Marlon Mack is activated for this game, but hell, who knows? That would be interesting. I mean, he's a veteran, proven running back who just, has a lot of injury issues, which he fits right in on our roster.
Absolutely.
Real quick, Scott Hill says he was watching John Brody, so he goes even farther back than we do, which is
that's awesome.
That's crazy.
Scott.
That's awesome. That's a true Niners fan right there. For all you people that became Niners fans in like 2005, Scott Hill's what's up. He's been repping before I was born, so that's awesome. He said he was born and raised in Richmond. That's awesome.
All right. Going back.
Wayne Quadlin says, I wish we used Trey as a special factor in the playoffs last year when Jimmy can't get it done. Run Trey when defenseman got Jimmy in the fourth. I'd never want to see a player used as a sideshow or as a like a, what do you call the guy from the Saints doing
a gadget player? I
think that's an unfair. I don't like gadget use for a player like Trey Lance's caliber. At this point with last year in the playoffs, it's over with. There's nothing we can do about it. It coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I'm not crapping on your what you're saying. I'm just saying at this point, I mean, we're in the 2022 season, so.
Yeah, I would agree with Wayne in that I was disappointed we didn't do that. I share your sentiment of not believing that a guy like Trey Lance should be used in that way. But once you get into NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, especially with a unique scenario where your starting quarterback is battling through pretty significant injuries, I do think it would have added something. But I also agree with you. You can't rewrite history. We lost. That season's over, and now we're here.
Yep. We're in this season is a different feel to it for me because it's just we have this loaded roster, but we have such an unknown at quarterback. And it's almost like if we do well, it was expected. If we don't, it's on Trey. So I'm in this weird headspace right now. I watch every game being really uncomfortable because I don't know how to feel. Should I just relax and watch the game, or should I be stressed out that the Niners aren't playing well? Is it Trey's fault? Like, I'm all over the joint with my emotions when I watch games. That's why football season for a person who has anxiety is kind of like the worst. That's why I have that negative Nancy kind of personalities, because it puts me in this weird headspace. Not a negative headspace like where I'm, dark or anything. It just football stresses me out. But yeah. I don't know. I guess it's healthy to get myself into it and stuff. I love football. Shifty 49ers talk. Hey, by the way, I've seen you on other people's channels. One of these days, I'd love to have you on the channel here. He says, you think Danny Gray is active for this game? I was just going to ask you that, Rob, even though that wasn't a topic.
This is an interesting one because it feels like a trade-off. It is Danny Gray versus Malik Turner. And very different skill sets. Malik Turner is a core special teams guy, and you got Brian Schneider coming back for a revenge game against his old squad. So does Brian Schneider lobby for, hey, coming back against Seattle? They have typically upended us in the third phase of the game. You look at the loss in Seattle last year, you could point to the third phase of the game as the reason why the 49ers lost it. They can't afford to lose this one. So does John Schneider make a strong enough case that what I need on special teams is more important than the value you get from Danny Gray on the offense, taking the top off the defense. It's a tough call for me personally. With the weather, I understood it. We're looking at rain again, but it's fair to assume this is going to be California rain. This is not going to be Chicago rain where it was coming down in buckets. This will be a lighter rain that shouldn't destroy the field in the same way that the flash flooding did in Chicago. I've got some pretty stupid pictures of that field and just puddles of water gathered on the top of it. I would start Danny Gray. I would dress him if I were in charge of that call. I think the value that you get in taking the top off of Seattle's defense, in particular with the injury to Jamal Adams, who's not going to be out there, you want to take some deep shots. And Ray, yeah, he's there for a few, but he doesn't have the wheels of Danny Gray.
I was a little disappointed Danny Gray wasn't starting last week. I was.
Me too. I was surprised.
I was like, what? Really?
Surprised.
So I'd like to see him in a different atmosphere, like you said. No buckets, no pools. Did you see that video of that one guy that was trying to eat popcorn and the water was just like pouring into it?
No.
Okay,
but
so
I did.
He's holding his popcorn like this, and the upper deck is just pouring in on him, and he has his popcorn. He just gives up and he just like tosses it upside down. So
that's amazing.
Real quick, we got Amin the Dream in here. He's finally joining us after getting his hair did.
Amin?
What's going on, brother?
What's up, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Ooh. And the hair's looking good, my friend. I was saying earlier, I was here on time because mine's a little quicker. It's easier to get a buzz cut than it is to get that do.
See, when I cut mine, because I have such a large forehead, I always feel like it's not going to regrow. So we all have different, like Amin's got a nice head of hair. Rob, not so much. And me, it's kind of, I'm like in the middle of you guys. Like my forehead literally is like right back here. So yeah. So you can't win all the genetic jackpots, man. You gotta take what you can get. Rob can grow a mean beard. I used to be able to grow the James Hetfield / late 90s Undertaker when he was the Dark Side Undertaker with like the 3 points on the goatee.
Nice.
It was pretty badass looking, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't like facial hair around my mouth because I'm always doing that. So I mean, we're a little bit into the discussion here. But what's your where are we talking about right now? Were we talking about the halfback situation? I think we were talking about a halfback situation.
We were.
We kind of jumped over to the Danny Gray topic too. What's your take on the kind of the uncertainty now with Elijah Mitchell being out for at least 2 months? Me and Rob discussed whether we would see Marlon Mack activated. We both kind of lean towards no, just because he's barely been there. What's your take on the Jeff Wilson Jr., Jordan Mason, and TDP combination? And who would you like to see, or are you down with the Kyle Shanahan mindset of ride the hot hand?
Now, I don't think Marlon Mack plays also this week. I think he's not been there long enough. I don't think he's going to be active this Sunday. Jeff Wilson, I think Jeff Wilson probably will be the starting running back on Sunday. I think Kyle Shanahan likes his veterans. Kyle Shanahan, he's been in the system for a long time, Jeff Wilson. So I think Kyle Shanahan probably will roll with Jeff Wilson on Sunday. And then obviously TDP and Jordan Mason have opportunities now to go into the game and get some reps. And who they have to make the most out of their opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, that Mitchell injury is a huge blow for this 49ers team. We had high expectations for him this season. He almost broke 1,000 yards last season, and he didn't even play a full year. And coming into this season, I personally had high expectations for Elijah Mitchell to come in and at least have over 1,000 yards because the Niners like to run the football. Sadly, he got hurt, obviously, week 1. Reminds me kind of Raheem Mostert last year, who also got hurt week 1, and he was going to be the starting running back for the majority of the season last year. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Marlon Mack probably will get activated next week to the starting roster and probably will play next week after he has a full week of learning the system and getting used to this 49ers team and this offense. But it'll be interesting to see. Now, obviously, I'm rooting for Jordan Mason. I want Jordan Mason to do well. I would love to see him play on Sunday. Do I think that's likely? No, not really. But do I think he'll get maybe a couple of carries in there? I think so. But obviously, I'm rooting for Jordan Mason to be the starting running back for the rest of the season. Who knows if that'll happen? But this running back situation, I mean, I'm not too worried about it because you've seen it in the past where Kyle Shanahan can plug in whoever he wants in that running back position and it works. Raheem Mostert was an undrafted guy. Matt Breida, I think, was an undrafted guy. Like Kyle Shanahan can find whatever running back a team doesn't want him, and he can turn him into a solid to a really good player. And even Elijah Mitchell was a 7th-round draft pick or 6th-round draft pick, and Elijah Mitchell was a stud last year for us. So I'm not really too worried about this running back position. I trust Kyle Shanahan, especially when it comes to his running backs, because he has a proven track record with whoever he plugs in at that running back position. A lot of the time, it goes really well.
Yeah, him and his father have a great track record of just, regardless of who you put back there, Orlando Scary. Why does my brain always freeze when I'm on YouTube? Orlando Scary. I'm trying to think of the running back they had.
Terrell Davis.
There was other ones too. They had a lot of. They came on the field and it's that. I don't know if it's the way they draft or what they look for, if it's mixed with the way that they run their offense with the the type of care. I'm trying to think of what the Niners. I'm not able to say what I want to say, but yeah, they've had a reputation of being really good with running backs. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I agree with that. The only piece that I would add to it, the caveat is, if Jordan Mason isn't a hit, and if you don't have a speed back, that's the only piece I worry about.
Yeah.
Shanahan's offenses, when he has someone that can go one cut and burst, seem to be extremely explosive. When you see them with slower, more plodding guys, they've had a few that have come through for him. Alfred Morris is certainly one where you look at somebody who plodded along. But when you watch Jeff Wilson Jr. at times struggle, or you watch Trey Sermon struggle last year, I'll be concerned if we don't have a breakout star in Jordan Mason, because getting through the rest of this 8-week period without Jeff Wilson Jr. stepping his game up, or Ty Davis Price being someone that we haven't seen yet, Marlon Mack, I've got my reservations about how much is left there. So I agree, Shanahan's great at finding backs, but I'm a bit worried if we don't have a home run in Jordan Mason.
Yeah, guys can't be. Go ahead.
No, that's fair. I mean, when you look at Jeff Wilson, at least in the past, especially when Mostert went down, he did step up his game, and he was that lead back, and he took role. And I remember going back to that New England game, he had like 180 yards and ran for a touchdown. And Jeff Wilson has stepped up in the past when the starting running back went down. But it'll be interesting to see, obviously, because Jeff Wilson had an injury last year. Who knows how healthy he is coming back from that? Will he be at 100%? Is he faster than what he once used to be? Like, it'll be interesting to see, because we haven't seen Jeff Wilson really have that much of a role in the offense for almost a year now, or a year and a half now. So it'll be interesting to see how Jeff Wilson comes back and how he'll respond to him being the starting back on Sunday.
And Rob makes a good point. Like, you can't have just a guy guy at running back just be average. You want to have him to be exceptional. And Raheem Mostert was exceptional. Elijah Mitchell last year was exceptional. You can't just have a plodding guy back there that's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. The running game is important to this team and everything that we like to do. We're very old-fashioned in a league that spreads everybody out and throws for 450 yards, and everybody's 35 of 50 every game. That's not the Niners' MO. So the Niners seem to be in their own way, or they play not quite up to their standard when they don't have the running game clicking. They just are a different team. When that running game's moving and they can hit that play action, they're very dangerous. Even with Jimmy, some of those, like I think it was the Monday Nighter against Green Bay in 2019. I think it was a play action pass with Kittle running that deep post. It was just it was such a beautiful play. And that's what the run does. You suck everybody up, you give them the suck, and then you throw it over their head. So I definitely hope that Jordan Mason, if he is the guy, if Jeff Wilson Jr. isn't quite up to snuff, that we'll see a kind of an explosive type player that can move the chains and give the Niners a threat to actually move the ball in play action. Because Trey, I want to see Trey. I want to see Trey shine, and I think the way you do that is you have the running game and the defense around him, and then you give him the chance to kind of go along for the ride for a bit until he's kind of ready to take that mantle. You can't just put it all on him right now. So when the two other aspects are going well, I think that Trey will benefit from that. So hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, that run game is crucial for this 49ers offense. We've seen it with Jimmy, and I think it even, especially for Trey also, because Trey's young. He's only played one full year in college, and making him go out and throw 35, 40 times a game, how well will that go, right? That's not really, a really successful way to put your, that's not really a good way to put your quarterback, or put him in a position like that where he has to throw like Tom Brady 35, 40 times a game and win you the football game. And even in the offseason, Kyle Shanahan came out and said, we're not going to rely on Trey to do everything, right? And a part of that is the run game, because and even going back to last year with Jimmy Garoppolo, is that especially throughout the end of the year, the Niners used to have drives where they almost took up the whole first quarter just running the ball, pounding it down your throat, and then they would score in the red zone. But this Niners offense, the run game is really crucial to this 49ers offense, and we've seen it with Trey Lance last week, and we've seen it with Jimmy Garoppolo throughout the whole 49ers regime with Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan. Is that this run game is crucial and an integral part of this offense in order for it to be successful.
Totally agree. Luke Luna here with the $2 super. He's making it rain. He's throwing dollar bills in my face. I appreciate that very much. I was going to say something, but I'm going to keep it to myself because it's pretty R-rated and I don't want to get in trouble.
Good choice. Good choice.
Brian Culp, and it kind of might have made you guys cringe. Brian Culp, in response to Kelt's Chronicle, says, I like Trey. He can definitely throw deep. That will open up the offense. I want Trey to work on the short passes, and I want to see him work on a quicker release. Agreed. The Jimmy gimme. Yeah, the Jimmy gimmies. The one thing you could say about Jimmy, the Jimmy gimmies is, he thrived, that with the middle of the field, the slants, the digs, the crossers, all that stuff, the quick stuff. And that's the one thing I think if Trey can start to get just repetitive motions of throwing stuff over and over again, I feel like the Niners offense, it's weird to say that they can be more dangerous, but you can't rely on the splash plays all the time. The deep outs and the corners and all those ones that he can make those throws and everything, but you have to be able to do the layups too. You have to be able to throw over the middle, quick release, hit your back foot, let it out, so that's the one thing right now I want to see Trey work on, and maybe it doesn't happen this year. I don't know. A lot of people are comparing him to Josh Allen. Josh Allen's pretty special, but Josh Allen wasn't special right away. Josh Allen struggled quite a bit. So he was he was a middle of the road 50% quarterback until I think year 3, and they went 13-3. So I hope it doesn't take Trey Lance 3 years to become the guy. But we just, all of us, myself included, we got to give the kid a chance. We want instant gratification because we know we have a Super Bowl roster and we know we can make a run. So we'll see.
Yeah, but there is reason for optimism that he can have a quicker trajectory for that very reason, that the San Francisco 49ers roster, as it's built right now, I would argue, is stronger than that Bills roster that existed. Now, the Bills have continued to build around.
Yeah.
But it's fair to expect this defense and this run game to be able to carry Trey a bit. And I thought that was the game plan in Chicago. It was working so well until it didn't. And it did feel like there wasn't a plan B. So that's a fair criticism. But I thought the plan was a good one and should work against Seattle.
We'll see. I think Seattle's gettable. I think they won in spite of themselves last week. I am not a believer in Geno Smith. I'm just going to let you guys know. So whatever he said in the post game about, people doubting him and whatever, I don't care. You're not good. So we'll transition to something that was the bone of contention and really pissed me off last week. It was, I simply titled this the penalties, bruh. Like, really? 12 penalties, almost 100 yards. Are the Niners undisciplined? Either of you can take this. I feel like they are. I feel like this has been a common theme that's kind of stuck with them for quite a bit of time. They always seem to be a team that sometimes beats themselves and the opponent doesn't have to do as much. But last week was just ridiculous. Game-changing, game-tilting penalties where drives are over, we're getting the ball back, and someone has to come sliding in and hit a guy that's already out of bounds on the ground, or sliding in and grabbing a guy by the face mask who's already down on the ground, just stupid things, So, Rob, or the Niners got to do a better job of policing themselves and not being, getting in their own way with all these penalties. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, take this one.
Yeah, the 49ers were undisciplined on Sunday, especially on crucial third downs. They were undisciplined and they made the stop, but then they would be like, okay, sometimes they didn't, but sometimes they would make the stop and then they would get penaltied for face mask or, helmet to helmet. And then it gave the Bears another 4 plays to go and get another first down and get them another chance to score points and put a point on the board. So the Niners were definitely undisciplined on Sunday. And that was a big reason why the 49ers lost this game. They didn't capitalize on offense. They had good field position numerous times, and they didn't capitalize on offense. And then defensively, on crucial parts of the game, they will get called for dumb penalties. That's why the 49ers didn't win this game. And if you have 12 penalties for 90-something yards, that's just unacceptable. Now, do I think the 49ers are an undisciplined team? I think they are a little bit. Now, not as bad as some other teams, namely America's team, which is the Cowboys, who have like 10 penalties almost every single game. I don't know about if you agree with me, Rob, and Aaron, but last year I feel like more of the penalties on crucial downs came from the offense on holding calls. I didn't really see. I know the defense also had some penalties, but for whatever reason, I remember last year a lot of times when we would get called for penalties in crucial situations of the game, it would be like an offensive holding call or a false start on the offense instead of the defense. The defense would usually be the one that would be making stops and and making the offense go 3 and out, and then the offense would have some stupid penalty in a crucial part of the game, and you're like, okay, offensive, now they have to move back 15 yards. We can't really convert a 3rd and 15, drive over, the other team gets the ball. So I feel like last year was more of the offense than it was the defense. But just going back to this game, like I said, the reason why the 49ers lost this game is not being able to capitalize on offense. And they had good field position numerous times in that game. And then defensively having stupid penalties, especially on third down, numerous times. Greenlaw, Aziz, like it was just undisciplined from the 49ers on Sunday. I think they'll probably fix that as the season goes on. I definitely expect to see less penalties this Sunday, but they definitely were undisciplined on Sunday. And I think they are somewhat of an undisciplined team. Like I said, not as much as some other teams around the league, but I think, as the season goes on, I think the Niners will fix that. And I definitely expect to see a different Niners team this Sunday against Seattle.
I have to agree with a lot of what Amin is saying there. They were very undisciplined on Sunday, and in general, underneath Kyle Shanahan, have been a moderately undisciplined team. Not tops in the leagues, not worst in the league. But you look at week 1 has been a rough one for the 49ers. In 2019, we had that terrible penalized game against Tampa Bay that we only win because we turn the ball. We forced turnovers 3 times against Tampa Bay. Otherwise, we'd have lost that one and be pointing to a very similar circumstance. I had a Bears podcaster that pointed out on average, the 49ers have had 7.2 penalties in week 1 under the Shanahan era. I believe it is the 49ers being ranked 11th in most penalties starting from when Kyle Shanahan came on board relative to the rest of the league. So, top third of the league there, top half of the league in penalties. It is a consistent issue. And in this particular circumstance where you're attempting to have a team wherein you have a great defense, solid run game, and a young, inexperienced quarterback, you're looking at some tight matchups, and tight matchups can absolutely be decided by a penalty here, a penalty there. Amin called out those penalties that extended drives. They were so painful to watch. And the only thing I would add slightly differ from Amin on is looking back to last year, that defense had some of those pass interference penalties that also, along with those offensive penalties Amin was talking about, just became painful to watch. And what I would surmise about both of those types, offensive and defensive holding penalties, is they feel very much like penalties of desperation. I'm about to get burned. They're about to cream my quarterback. I've got to hold. I've got no other choice. I'm getting toasted. I'm about to give up a touchdown. I'm going to grab the wide receiver, and sure, are we going to get a spot on the ball foul? Yeah, but it's not a touchdown. And it felt like we were doing those things out of desperation to make a play. On Sunday, at least against Chicago, it felt like trying to do too much. Like the defense knew it was going to be on them, and so they carried beyond the whistle. They didn't just play to the whistle, they played beyond it and did some stupid things that weren't born out of desperation, but were born out of a sense of like, I'm going to win this game for us. And I think this team is talented enough. The defenders need to focus on their assignment, being assignment sound and trusting that everyone around them is going to do that. Had they just been a little more conservative, I think we would have seen maybe even a shutout in this one.
Oh, it would have been nice. Yeah.
And that's why Sunday hurts really badly, because we just shot ourselves in the foot. Because if you look at the statistics, offense and defense, we were controlling that football game for majority of that game, if
Yes,
not
we were.
the entire game. But the reason why the 49ers lost them that game on Sunday is because they shot themselves in the foot. Crucial third down penalties, like you mentioned, Rob. But outside of that, like, the Niners are controlling this football game. And if they didn't make those crucial mistakes and crucial penalties, the Niners should have probably won that game, if not blown out the Bears in Chicago on Sundays. So it sucks when you, like, it's obviously sucks when you lose any game. But when you shoot yourselves in the foot and then you end up losing because you shot yourself in the foot and you hurt yourself, that's what sucks. That's what sucks even more. And especially as a fan, when you want your team to do good and they shoot themselves in the foot and they lose the game by themselves, kind of, in a way, it hurts. It hurts, obviously.
Yeah, that was a tough game to watch, mainly for the fact that I let my mind go there at one point. But I was like, man, I think we got this. This seems like an easy game. The Bears suck. Justin Fields don't look that great. The weather's garbage. We'll play our normal Niner ball. We'll win, 17-3 or something like that on the ball. I really don't care as long as we get the victory. The weather's crap. And then the freaking wheels came off with Greenlaw's had a propensity for this. This isn't like a one-time thing. This is kind of his MO. If you want to figure out who to keep, whether him or Azeez Al-Shaair, this should be the determining factor. Who gives away the most penalty yards and keeps drives alive that end up getting you beat? Oh, Dre Greenlaw? Okay, goodbye. But that's just me. Real quickly, Tommy Huxley says the Care Bears didn't beat us. We beat us.
Yeah,
very true.
That is true.
Very, very true. We're coming up on the top of the hour. I'm trying to get Rob out of here soon. The thing, this kind of goes in line with the penalties, is our defense. I thought our defense played very well. The question I had for the topic was, can our defense rebound? I guess more or less, can they just stay more disciplined? That was more or less the issue that happened last Sunday. So can the defense be more disciplined? Do you think the Niners come out with an A+ effort this time and try not to beat themselves? Because that play where they, everybody kind of bit up on Justin Fields running, that was just, I saw that coming a mile away. If you were watching that on the TV broadcast, I know Rob, you were there on the TV broadcast. Once I seen him roll out left and he was just kind of standing there, I'm like, we're about to get toasted.
Yep.
And it's sure enough, wide open. Like, all of a sudden you just see Pettis' little behind come into the screen. I'm like, damn it. So
it had to be Pettis. It had to
be. Revenge game.
Yep.
He did us dirty.
Yeah, that was bad. His little cat-looking self. I did not like him when he was here. I just felt like he should have been like a veterinarian or something. He just seemed more.
You know what's funny about Pettis though? Like DK and Pettis both changed their hair colors a lot. But when you compare DK Metcalf,
yeah,
and
DK is an that's an alpha.
Different people.
That's an alpha male.
Yeah,
DK's an alpha male. He's got muscles on his muscles, man. Pettis looks like a skateboarder.
He does.
And nothing against people who skateboard, man.
No.
But oh lordy. I guess the last two, Kyle needs to call a better game. I say yes. I think Kyle needs to. It's hard to kind of question the coach. I know we're nitpicking here, but I feel like Kyle sometimes gets in his own way or gets too cute for his own good. Was that the case this past Sunday, or do you think the Niners just with the undisciplined play and the weather, maybe it wasn't as much the case? Or do you think Kyle maybe can Kyle be better this coming week?
I've got mixed emotions on this one. I'm not sure which direction Amin will go. But by the way, just to throw it out there, we're good to go a few minutes beyond. Since we moved it up, appreciate that, gentlemen. I'll be good to keep going as we finish out these topics. To me, I loved Kyle Shanahan's initial game plan. I really did. I thought that he came in with the right mindset. He came in doing exactly what a more talented roster should do to a less talented roster. Play fairly conservative, move the ball on the ground, a couple of well-timed shot plays, count on your defense to absolutely swarm all over Chicago and hold it to a low-scoring affair. What went sideways was the weather and the penalties. in a game that you're attempting to control pace, where you're attempting to run the ball down the opponent's throat, those penalties absolutely add up. And when the game tilted sideways, it didn't feel like there was a plan 1B. There was plan 1A and more plan 1A. Even when we got down to the tail end of the game, where it felt like we better pick up the pace of this thing, because the game is literally going to end before we have enough chances to come back and get 2 scores. And it didn't feel like the Niners had that in them. It was still the same plodding pace of it that allowed the rain to just continue to ramp up and get to a point where it became completely apparent that regardless of your plan, you were not going to be able to move the ball, especially needing 2 scores there at the end. So I didn't object to the original game plan. I objected to what felt like a lack of adjustments by the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree with Rob. I'm kind of mixed on this whole thing, because I think if you look at just that first drive, the Niners came out and did what they did for the last couple of seasons, and what's been successful for this team, which is being conservative, running the football down your throat, not taking too much risk. And that drive, the first drive went well. I was like, whoa, this is going surprisingly well. I mean, hopefully this happens the whole season. And obviously that Debo fumble. I mean, this
That was a killer.
Yeah, that was killer, right? Like, just this offense not being able to capitalize on good field position. Even like sometimes missing on screen passes, sometimes by Trey, sometimes Trey did miss on some screen passes. No, I think part of that is because of the weather, because both quarterbacks were playing in horrible weather. I feel bad for you, Rob, because I was sitting on my couch relaxing with the heater on, and
Me
Rob
too.
was soaking in with all the water just pouring all over him, and even all the other guys that were out there. I think Vish was out there. I mean, it must have been hard. And I remember talking about it like at school today, or a couple of days ago. I was like, imagine being a 49ers fan, going to that game, sitting there for at least 2 hours. It's raining, it's horrible, it's windy, it's really, really cold. And on top of that, your team has a 10-point lead going into halftime, and 2 quarters later, you end up losing. And you sat through that for 2 hours. It must have been dreadful. But going back to this offense, I mean, it was just not being able to capitalize. Now, I think sometimes Kyle Shanahan does overthink and kind of, gets in the way, gets him, just sometimes overthinks in general. But it's for this game in specific, I think it was some parts it was because of the rain, some parts it was because Niners just weren't able to capitalize offensively. I think Kyle had some really nice play designs, like that one to Ayuk, or that one, I think there was one pass to Ayuk that I don't remember in specific. But like Kyle Shanahan, I think some of the plays that he called were really, really great. He schemed Ayuk wide open, and then Trey hit that beautiful pass. I mean, those are certain things Kyle Shanahan can do. And he's ahead of the league in that, right? Like, you remember Deebo Samuel last year playing wide back. And then teams last year started using their receivers in jet sweeps. When was Kyle Shanahan doing that? Kyle Shanahan started doing that 2 years before, in 2019. So when it comes to just, offensively, Kyle Shanahan and, scheming players and, getting the most out of his players, Kyle Shanahan and, utilizing his players in the best position, Kyle Shanahan's way ahead of the league in that, in that remark, or in that standpoint. But I mean, offensively, like I said, not being able to capitalize on good field position. And then part of that was because of the rain. And then sometimes the offense just wouldn't capitalize on certain plays that Kyle Shanahan called, like missing screen passes or things like that. And like, if the screen passes to Debo last year in Chicago, obviously it wasn't raining, but Debo gained some pretty good yards on that. So let's say Trey hits 2 or 3 of those. That could be like a 5-yard, 6-yard pickup, if not more, which would, result into like a 3rd and 5 instead of a 3rd and 10 because it was a dropped or it was missed. So, I mean, some of it's because of the rain, even though both teams were playing in the rain. Now, I'm not blaming it 100% on the rain. I think obviously because both teams were playing in the rain, but I think part of it was Kyle Shanahan, and I think part of it was just the offense not executing in general.
Trey had a couple dirt balls in that game. He had a couple worm burners. The weather. I thought Debo played one of his worst games as far as just a couple drops, the fumble. This offense looked like an offense that didn't play in the preseason. They looked rusty. They looked like they hadn't played together. I mean, you got your offensive tackle letting your quarterback get it absolutely annihilated and then just walking off the field. Like, what the heck is that all about? That pissed me off. Like, I don't know. There was just a lot. The Niners look like a rusty team that hadn't played together in quite a bit of time as far as like in a real game scenario. I still agree that I'd rather not have my players play in the preseason. I know it makes for bad football in September, But why risk injury on meaningless games? You know,
better to have one poor game than to miss a player for the entire season. I have to
game
agree.
that didn't matter.
Exactly.
In a game that didn't matter. That I'll never understand that. I forgot what player that happened to. Was it Tim Biakabatuka or some player that like there was going to be some great, I don't know if it was a running back or something. He blew his knee out in like a preseason game, and then his career was like never the same after it. I forget who the running back was. And it was in an unneeded game. I think that the preseason is good for fringe players who are on the verge of either making the roster or working as a UPS guy that following week, which is nothing wrong with, because UPS guys make actually pretty decent money. But what I'm saying is like the preseason is for that back end of your roster.
Right.
You know, your younger players, your rookies, guys you want to see get some serious playing time. Starters should not touch the field. So if this is the outcome where the Niners kind of look like poop in the first game and we wheel off a next couple of games before we get into the heart of our schedule.
Yeah.
Then I'll take it. But we don't know yet. We got to play this Sunday. I can't wait. I'm so excited for Sunday.
I'm gonna be there on Sunday, so I'm looking.
That's awesome.
All right.
Me and Amin are actually going to be doing a Friday stream from now on to kind of preview.
Nice.
I'm trying to get a midweek guy. That's why I kind of, I lumped a couple people in a message like, hey, we can alternate all three of you. If you can't make it. I have my NWO show on Monday. I have Amin on Friday, and I'm trying to get a Wednesday, Thursday kind of check on the game that was prior and kind of look forward. So as the farther we get down the week, the more we get towards the next game kind of thing. It was weird. I need, having the time away from YouTube, it reinvigorated passion.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Plus, there's something to talk about now.
Yeah.
Like, who cares
real
about
football?
Who cares about mini camp? I don't care. When
Man,
there's actual football, I do, but I don't know. Some people, like, there is people, and I mean this in a very nice way, who can pump content out and they can freaking put the biggest diamond ring on something that stinks and make it interesting to listen to. I'm not that guy. I don't have that talent. I don't. And to props to anybody, my boy Rob, anybody who has a weekly shows that they kill it. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, football season,
Rob.
That's what we call whipped cream on dog poop there.
That is definitely
whipped cream on dog poop.
Yeah, I'm all out of whipped cream. I don't have it. I just have the dog poop. But I guess the last one, the last thing, and then we'll get out of here. What's your guys' score predictions for the game? I think I had 27-17 as kind of my de facto. And I think the Niners find a way. I think Trey Lance has a strong game, and I think the running game really. Running game, I think it's an all three phases type game where the Niners come out and play way better than what we saw in Chicago.
I have to agree that it will be a better outcome. I think the 49ers will come out much the same way they came out against Chicago, minus all of the errors, minus the backsliding in the second half, minus the monsoon. Because even though we do have rain forecasted, I anticipate it will not be what I sat through. And to point that out, I want to say to those that go to games, as a piece of veteran advice here, go in and appreciate the experience. Because I'll tell you what, I come out of Chicago with a very painful loss, but a smile on my face, a smile and amazing memories. I met Jack Hammer for the first time in person. He and I broke bread, had dinner. I had a phenomenal time in Chicago, ate some amazing food, met a bunch of people at the game who came up, said what's up. CJ Gray was there. It was phenomenal. And then I sat through one of the most intense rainstorms that I've ever been in from a guy who lives in Portland, Oregon. Like, that is how crazy the weather was there. And so I've got stories to tell from it. Would I rather they had gotten a W? Yes, absolutely. But because I go into it for the life experience, to put pins on that map and to walk away having supported my Niners, I feel better about it. And I encourage more people to have that positive outlook going in. Because otherwise, you're going into like a 60-40 chance of walking away feeling like crap. And that's not a good outcome. So was I hurt by the outcome? Absolutely. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you are going to get a positive outcome in this one. Like I said, I think they take out on Seattle what they could have done to Chicago if they had just been mistake-free and had the weather not turned on us. So I'm going to view it as 49ers 24, Seattle 10.
The proverbial government mule game. That's all I got to say about that. I mean,
I'll go 24-13. I think the Seahawks get a field goal late, but I'm going to enjoy it, right? Obviously, even if it's raining, I mean, I love going to 49ers games, love the atmosphere being there. Now, obviously, some of you might disagree with me, but watching it on TV is definitely easier than watching it like from the stadium, because sometimes like the Niners will be all the way across the field. You're like trying to like look and see what's going on. So it's obviously easier watching it on TV, but just the atmosphere at Levi Stadium and just being there, being a part of it is just definitely it's definitely different, and it's definitely also enjoyable in its own way. But I'm excited for it. I'm going 24-13. I think the Niners will definitely have a better game when you look at penalties. I think they'll be a more disciplined football team. I think they obviously will have their fair share of penalties, but I think they will definitely bounce back and have a better game than what they had on Sunday. I think this defense will go off. Now, I don't know about 5 sacks or whatever, because I expected them to have way more sacks last week, and they only had 2, right? So it'll be interesting to see. But this defense, I mean, yes, they were undisciplined on Sunday, but if you look at that first half, it showed a lot of potential. And
they look really good.
This team, when you look at the defense, this defense is super talented, from their linebackers to their corners to their safeties to that D-line depth. This Niners defense is ultra mega talented. The only thing that I would have to say about this defense is just them being healthy. If they're
Yes.
able to stay healthy, this Niners defense will be a problem this whole entire season. The only concern that I have is those injuries, because if someone big goes down, if Charvarius Ward goes down or Nick Bosa goes down, then there would be an issue a little bit. But overall, this defense has a lot of potential, a lot of talent. They just can't get them, they just can't get in their, they just can't bite themselves in the foot. And then, I mean, this defense just last week, especially in that first half, showed a lot of flashes, a lot of potential for what I think we'll see this whole season if this Niners defense can stay healthy. But going back to score prediction, I will go 24-13. I think the Niners are definitely I think they'll be more disciplined on Sunday, and I think they come out with a victory. And I think they'll finish. I think by the end of Sunday, I think they'll be 1-1.
Perfectly put, my man. Real quick, Wayne says 1917 Niners. Raphael 562 says 24-16. So a little bit closer. I always go with the 27-17. I'm lazy. And one real quick question for you, Mean, and then we'll all get out of here. How long have you been a 49er fan?
So when I really started watching the Niners was Jim Tom Sula, Chip Kelly. So like that was my first 2
poor
years.
friend.
That was my
That's
first
rough.
2 years watching the Niners. Like right before when Jim Harbaugh was gone, that first year is when I really started watching the Niners heavily. I remember staying up till like 9 o'clock one day watching that Minnesota game, and I was like, dang, this Niners team is really, really good. And then like a week later, like they get blown out. They get blown out by Pittsburgh by like 30, and I'm like, oh, okay. What's
really
going on?
suck.
And then that whole season, the Niners are getting blown out by like the Saints and the Patriots. And like sometimes we would be really close. And in the second half, I'm like, what's happening to this Niners football team? We're getting absolutely toasted in the second half. Yeah, that was my first couple of years. And even in the Shanahan and Lynch regime, I mean, there's been good times. And then, there's also been some really heartbreaking times. I mean, only time I remember crying as a Niners fan was that Super Bowl. I mean, I went to sleep crying that night. Part of it was because the Niners lost. A part of it was because I had to go to school and face some Seahawks fans that morning. I remember purposely 6th graders, okay, the 6th grade Seahawks fans came into my classroom and started like, oh, look at your 49ers team, da 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 da. Like I had to deal with that in the morning. I was depressed, it was tough, but I mean, you know what? I mean, it's still been fun being a Niners fan, that we say, we call the 49er faithful. I'm always, and I will always continue to be faithful to this 49ers team through the ups and through the downs. But it's been a hell of a ride. It's definitely been a hell of a ride through seeing different coaches and seeing the ups, seeing Colin Kaepernick, Blaine Gabbert. I mean, it's definitely been crazy.
Well, hopefully we're on the uptick and we'll see a lot more good than bad. But we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Let my boy Rob get going. And for everybody in the chat, for the super chats, for people that have commented and appreciate all that and all your interaction with me and the panel. Before I get out of here, I just want to say what's up to Real Talk Niner Talk. I love you guys. Sorry I missed your stream the other day. I was at work, so I couldn't quite get to it. But great show, everybody. It's Kev. Oh, man. Silverado. What's up, my man? I love that guy. I got to have him back on the show. it was fun, guys. I had a blast. I want to do this again. Me and Amin will do this again. Still trying to figure out my midweek deal here. So that's a little bit in flux. But until next time, everybody, stay safe and healthy. Go watch that game on Sunday. Hopefully we win. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Peace.